إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. My dear respect brothers and sisters, we decided to start that we wanted to make sure that the Muslims understand the basis of their deen. Many of us are being taught many aspects within our religion, but in the era that we are living in right now, we are being it's made a necessity that for us to understand and have a solid background argument that could able to defend our faith within ourselves, and how could we defend our faith to the others. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, we wanted to start the series that talks about the evidences of the origins of Islam, and to see that and to show the world and show ourselves the fact that everything that we believe in have a rationality. Everything that we believe in, here we're talking about the basis. The basis of our belief have a rationality, and we're not our faith is not based on blind faith. Our faith is not based of just because someone else told us to believe of something. So brothers and sisters, please stick tuned with me. So bidnillah ta'ala, it's gonna be a weekly thing bidnillah ta'ala, and we're gonna be taking it bit by bit because this is something that is it's gonna take quite a bit of time for us to establish, and there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, and we'll bidnillah ta'ala we'll talk about these things one bit at a time بإذن ta'ala. So today, brothers and sisters, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about the evidences of the origin of Islam, and the very first thing that is needed and is required for us to talk about is what is how could we establish how could we establish the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on rationality بإذن ta'ala. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this is بإذن ta'ala the lecture series that we're gonna start بإذن ta'ala. Okay. Um, okay, so one bit at the time. So before we start this argument بإذن ta'ala, it is important for us that to talk about that we want to prove to the other people the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. So here we want so the very first important aspect that we need to prove to the people and prove to ourselves that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. There is a higher being out there. And one of the most important things that is important for us to know as a skill is that yes, there are many proofs and many evidences that could show that there is a creator at the end of the day. You know, but unfortunately, many of us we tend to utilize, when we are arguing with the with our internal self, or whether we're arguing with people with someone who is we're trying to prove that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala exists. Sometimes we use weak and strong evidences, and it's important for us to not use all these arguments in the same level, because sometimes when we use a weak argument or a weak evidences, and our corner and the person that we are dialoguing with, or the person that we're debating, have something that could destroy that evidence, or have a response to that, then what is that going to leave us? That's going to leave us as if our whole belief is based on what? Based on nothing. So it's important for us that every time we want to prove something, every time we want to give da'wah, every time we want to show ourselves, if we want to strengthen our iman, is to go after the strongest evidence. And as people say, when you have one strong evidence, it equals 20 or more weak evidences. So it's important for us that yeah, every time does not really necessarily apply to our lesson here. This could be applied to anything else. In which every time we are talking, every time we are giving da'wah, every time we are even thinking ourselves and contemplating, it's for us to go after the strongest of all evidences. Because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, بل نقذف بالحق على الباطل فيدبغه فإذا هو زاهق. That when we throw the truth, on the falsehood, it destroys it. There is nothing stands in front of the real truth. Nothing. Because the truth cannot be, you cannot argue with it. No one can defeat the truth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, we believe that our religion, what we believe in, is the ultimate truth. And that's what we are calling everyone else to, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay? So this is what the most important aspect that we need to think about before we talk about anything. The second thing is now when we are jumping in, and so the very first evidence that exists of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So there are many evidences, but we're going to be talking about one evidence at the time. Okay? The very most important evidence that here is worth for us to talk about is the evidence of the creation and existence. What does that mean? Meaning the fact that the fact that we exist, the fact that we are, we are here, the fact that, the fact that, there are bodies, there are insects, there are animals, there are plants, the fact that we have an existence. If you look at other planets throughout the universe, scientists are still looking for signs of life, as they say it, but yet they have not found any. They have not found, human beings or other creations in other planets. So the fact that we exist, it shows that, it's part of our, national instinct, to think that someone else exists. And this is my dear respect brothers and sisters, as we call it, it's the proof of certainty. And the thing is, this is a proof to show that the fact that, and it's something, it's natural, part of a natural instinct of any human being. When I made something into existence, meaning that I'm the one who created it. When Steve Jobs made the iPhone, that means before the iPhone was made, the iPhone did not exist. And the fact that the iPhone came into existence is because Steve Jobs invented that. It's something as simple as that. They used to ask, there are many examples of this. Like, for instance, one time a man asked an Arab Bedouin, he told him, how could you prove the existence of God? He told him, when I walk into the desert, when I walk into the desert, and I find, in front of me stools or leftovers of other animals, I know that there was an animal that walked here before me. So these evidences showed me that there are someone that used to be here. These are signals that show us that someone else, was here. And when we look at the whole universe and how the universe is here with all of its laws and all of its, the physical things that it exists, the way it's being regulated. When we look at the world and we see the fact that, such thing exists, that signifies, that give us a signal that someone else created it. Imam Ahmad, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, he one time wanted to argue or wanted to debate with people who are at his time to be atheists. And when the time came for the debate, Imam Ahmad was late. So they told him, people thought that he was late because of the fact that, he did not have he was afraid to debate with them. So when he came, they told him, how come you were late? He said, well, see, I was in the other side of the bank, the other bank of the river, the Euphrates, And he told them, I stood at the other side of the bank, and I all of a sudden I saw a tree by the side of the bank fell into the river, and this tree by itself, made itself into logs, and those logs came together to make into a shape of a ship, and that ship, tightened itself to become a stronger ship, so for itself to float, up the river. Then what I did, I got into this ship, and I got into to see you at the other side. So the people looked at him and told him, "Are you crazy? Do you think we are a bunch of fools? Do you think that we are, we don't have a brain to think with? How could someone would believe anything that you have said?" He said, "If you could not believe that a ship came into itself by accident, how do you want me to believe this whole universe So these brothers and sisters, these are natural instincts that we have within us to recognize that when something came into existence, it did not come out of thin air. It did not just create itself. There have to be something else that created it, you know? And that's something that it's logical, it's rational, that even a child would understand. Even a child would understand. Okay? So based on that, there are two premises that we need to think about. Two premises. Okay? The fact that we exist, you know, the fact that we exist, and the fact that we are created and we exist. There are two things that we have to think about. Number one is that the universe came into existence and it didn't exist before, meaning that it's not like the universe was there for a long for infinity. No, the number one premise that we have to make sure to prove is the universe came into existence, and it didn't exist before. Okay, so that's number one. And second thing is anything that comes into existence or is created must have a creator. So this is kind of the basics of this argument, the argument of creation, and existence. Okay, so to talk about the very first one, okay, before, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in am humul khaliqun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling, were they created out of nothing, or they created themselves? You know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us to think, there are brothers and sisters, there are endless. I'm telling you, there are endless of scientists nowadays who believe on and came into the conclusion that the universe came into existence, that the universe, did not exist before, and it came in existence. One of the physicists, his name is the super force, and at many instances in his life, what he said in his book, he said one of the great, and here I'm paraphrasing, he said one of the greatest um, discoveries of our century, that the universe came into existence. And again, there are many names that we tend to call it nowadays. We could call it the Big Bang, the great explosions or whatever. But the point is, who made the Big Bang become the Big Bang? Who created the universe? Who made the universe come into existence? There are, and like I said, there's endless sciences that tell us that, and they could be atheist or non-atheist. Like, for instance, even Stephen Hawking, even Stephen Hawkins, and he is one of the lead atheists that people look up to. What he said in his book, The Brief History of Time. What he said, all the evidences that we have says the universe had a beginning. So that shows that. So if something had a beginning, so Stephen Hawking, to the majority of the atheists, they think this guy is like, he is the most intelligent. He is the leading atheist in this contemporary world. And if he says that this universe came into a beginning, this universe had a start, then if we want to draw a timeline, that at 0.0001 second or a 0.0 second, who made the universe? Who decided? And that's the question. Who decided at point 01 for this universe to have an existence? Who decided why this location was decided for the Big Bang to exist at that time? Who decided that? This is something that we ask the atheist to think about. At point 01 second of the existence of the universe, who chose the time? Who chose the place? Because at point 01 universe cannot just self itself. It did not have nothing come from nothing. No, you can't have something come from nothing. It's impossible. Someone have decided for this universe to come into existence. Someone have that told us that have made a set of of rules and regulation for this universe to come in existence. And again, here we're talking about like literally endless number of scholars and scientists who tell us that this came into existence, that the universe had a start. And I'm gonna show, and I'm gonna quote with to you, many one of the leading scientists, and I'm gonna show you here in a bit. For instance, scholars of chemistry, his Cleveland Cawthorn, he said all the chemistry and tell us that at one point things came into existence. It did not start by itself, and it, even and at the end of the day, there were sets that they were made for these things to come into existence. You know, and this is my brothers and sisters. This is extremely important. And here we're not just talking about theories and speculations. Here we're gonna even gonna take it to a step further. Like for instance, when we talk about the rules of thermodynamics, okay, the rules of what thermodynamics, okay. Um, what are some of the second law of thermodynamics? What is the second law of thermodynamics? And here I'm going to share with you exactly what the second law of thermodynamics says. It says that energy changes from one form to another, or matter moves freely to entropy. So the whole the whole universe go into entropy, meaning that it goes from place of a higher energy. This is what the second law of thermodynamics says. This is a law. It says that all this universe go into entropy, meaning that it becomes more disordered. You know, it started at one place, and then it's gradually expanding. It become more disordered. And meaning that places of less energy is going to further expand to have less energy, and that shows us what does the second law thermodynamics indicates? Indicates one thing only: the fact that at one point this universe is going to come to a stop. This universe is going to lose all of its energy, and and going backward, that tells us that at one point, energy had a place to start, and that's why the universe is expanding, and that's why that we become more disordered when it comes to the whole universe. So that shows us what? That shows us the fact that we had a start. Based on the second law of thermodynamics, we had a start. And based on the second law of thermodynamics, we're going to have an end. Because what? Energy is free flowing, and is going to continue to be disordered, and it's going to continue to follow that pathway until it's going to come to a stop. And this is what one of the basic laws of thermodynamics indicates. Subhanallah, you know. So this is not just speculative, and this is one of the main bases of the arguments that scientists have used to come up to arrive at this conclusion. Is the fact that we continue to follow. We continue to follow, the second law of thermodynamics. The second, the second premise that we must prove as the basis of the creation and existence is the fact that part of our natural instinct to believe that when we see something that comes into existence, or something that did not exist and all of a sudden it existed, that it must have a creator. For instance, if I was sitting, if I was sitting, and then someone, for instance, slapped me, did I? What is the most like part of my natural buildup, part of my natural? On the very first thing I'm going to think, someone was passing behind me and extended his hand, and he left. You see, it's just basic. You know, why? Because that's what's the way that we are built up. That's the appropriate way for us to think. And this did not come out of nothing. There was, and this is something, a boy. If you ask, another example, if you ask a boy, a boy, maybe he is 3 years old, 3 years old, and he was sitting, and he saw a ball moving in front of him. What is the very first think? Someone kicked that ball. Basic stuff. Why? Because part of the way that we're being programmed, the way that we're being structured, is to think when something is moving that it must have another individual who made it into to move. So this is again, you don't have to be a scientist to figure this out. This is one of the basic things that anyone, even a child, would understand. You know. So if something came into existence, something was created, it must have a creator. And the dilemma here, brothers and sisters, and this is extremely important. If someone claims that nothing, something came out of nothing, then I could claim anything. I could, for instance, you could have some, you could say, this guy, he died with no reason. He got shot by the air. Someone, when I see, someone's got hit by a car and a car ran him over, and I say, well, by the way, nothing hit him. He was just sitting, and then, my imagination, throw him up into the air, and he came and down in the street, and nothing happened. So I could claim anything. If we go on to argue, as some of these leading atheists claim, that something could come out of nothing, then we could claim anything. We could say that, this is the most bizarre thing, that when people, try to make the most stupidest argument, and they frame it in a way to make it look scientific and it's rational. No, because even the natural instinct of any human beings would kind of reject it. You show this. I mean, the thing that you are trying with, when some of these atheists try to frame and make it look nice and make it look cool, and using scientific words and long words from the dictionary, so they could try to prove that something came out of nothing. I swear to you, even the 5-year-old would reject such argument, because nothing, something could never come out of nothing. And this is something that many people miss to understand. But and here, like again, like I said again, if I see so, if a boy saw a moving ball, the very first thing is going to come into his mind: someone kicked that ball. He's not going to think that, well, it came out of nothing and then it started moving by itself. No, you know. So how the believer in God uses this. As we believers in Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, how do we use these these arguments? We don't say, and this is something that we have to make sure that we understand and others understand, that we don't believe that God is just an explanation. Well, God is the best explanation for. No, this is we say this is because we have nothing else to explain this by. Well, how this came into existence? Well, the only possible, one of the possibilities is just we could say that God created. No, this is this is not what we are saying. We're saying it's rational, and it's one of the inductional necessary argument that we use to base our argument on. And it's if we have they say, even in the philosophy, if the most plausible argument is the best argument, then it's the best argument. Then don't move forward. And this is the most plausible thing that we think of. The fact that this is the only thing that would make sense. The fact that this world would never come into existence unless it have a creator, and this creator must be knowledgeable. This creator must be all powerful. This creator must be higher. This creator is not part of his creation. And that's one of some of the arguments that people think that Islam is missing. No, Islam. We believe that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is not part of his creation. you know because again, going back to philosophy, Steve Jobs cannot be part of his iPhone. you know and that's one of the logical arguments that we support. Yes, the creator cannot be part of his creation. you know and and we believe this is the only logical explanation to all of this. We don't say that, well, the argument of endless regression, in which that, well, the world, there is God one who created the world, and then this God one was created by God two, and this God two was created by God three. This is endless. Then we never stop. Then this is what they say, endless regression, meaning that we're going to have endless number of creators, but at the end of the day, it must have a start. It must have a start. And science science show us and prove to us, like just I mentioned, that the universe had a start. The universe had a beginning. So who's made that call for this universe to start? We believe that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is the one and only, the creator of everything, the most powerful, the most knowledgeable, the high, the Almighty. So, and the Quran, brothers and sisters, further signifies. It's not like we come into this, and we, again, part of what makes Islam unique, and part of the fact what makes Islam special, is the fact that the Quran, he tell us he he tell us to think. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَلَا يَذْكُرُ الْإِنسَانُ أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَلَمْ يَكُ شَيْئًا. Don't the human being remember that we created him out of from before, and he was nothing? So he's asking us to think. He's asking us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to ponder. He's telling us that you were nothing, and you came into existence by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to use our natural instinct to rationalize. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in a very small verse of the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Were they created, from nothing, or were the creators? Ibn Taymiyyah and the great scholars, they said from this verse we could arrive at one of three things. One, that we self created ourselves. We created ourselves. Two, we came out of nothing. Three, we had a creator. Well, obviously, you know, we can't come out of nothing, as we just showed, and it's illogical to think that something uh, 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 the natural instincts of any human being that we cannot believe. No one believes. Again, no rational human being believes that something came out of nothing. It's impossible. It's not rationally makes any sense whatsoever. So number one is out. Number two, did we self-create ourselves? Is it possible for something to self-create himself? How something would self-create himself? Like who made that decision? Like for instance, as if I came into existence and my feet is there and my brain is not. Who gave the instructions for me to self? Because for something to self-create himself, he must have a rationality. He must have an intent. I must have a goal. How all these things came into existence, it wouldn't make any sense. It would not. Does not make any. Nothing have self-created itself. Nothing. And again, that's another illogicality. So the only logical explanation that we had a creator, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is telling us that. One of the misconceptions that we see even in the traditions of the Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some people unfortunately tend to misinterpret. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the authentic Hadith, "يأتي الشيطان أحدكم فيقول." Satan would come to us and he would tell us, "من خلق هذا?" Who created this? "من خلق هذا?" Who created that? حتى يقول, until he would say, "من خلق ربك?" Who created your Lord? فإذا بلغه فليستعذ بالله, you know, فليستعذ بالله وليتنته. So when someone comes to the question, who created your Lord, he said seek refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from Satan. Some people mistranslate that to say, well, Islam in here is asking you not to use your brain. No, this is wrong. What Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is indicating here, is telling you that this question is wrong. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is indicating in this hadith that this question, for you to ask who created God, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not saying that don't ask that question and just have a blind faith. No, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us that this question, logically speaking, you cannot apply what's the rules and regulations that applies to the creation to the creator. And that's what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is trying to tell us here. When how many handles the office of my door have, I would tell you it had two. But I cannot say, how many handles the carpenter who created this door has. It's what applies to the creator to the creation, or I can apply what applies to the creation to the creator. So this is, and that's what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us here. So with that being said, in this session, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, we talked about rational argument that we could utilize to prove with confidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there, is the argument of what? Creation and existence. In summary, we could prove these are the two premises is that one, the universe came into existence, and this is something that now no one argues over, and the fact that the mere idea that if anything came into existence to guide all to show us the right path, Let me see if there is any questions. Uh, let me see. So let me respond to this. So I have a person here. His name is David Fisher. He said you came into existence because your mom and dad. Well, here we're not talking about my mom and my dad. Here all living things came into existence. How is the human being came into existence? How everything in this world came into existence. So the question here is that you know how this universe came into existence. Okay, the point is here, just for us to think logically about this, to say that using simple logic here, that science and now it's even uh, being laughed at to think that the universe did not come into existence. All of the scientists now, or the majority of the scientists now, agree that what that that the universe came into existence. So the question that I'm asking you and asking the others, okay, is the following: is how this universe came into existence. Who decided for this universe to come into existence? And if something created something, the creator must be knowledgeable than his creation. This creator must be transcendent, must be a higher. This universe, this creator must be more intelligent. So we say the most logical argument that could explain all of this, and the only explanation to all of this, is it must have we must have a God. He's the only explanation to all of this. So this is our main argument. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you and to guide everyone else. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show you the right path and show us the right path. Jazakum Allah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.